Hello, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Louise Minchin.
The headlines for you at 6 o'clock on this Wednesday morning. UK officials are in talks with the Taliban to try and get more British nationals safely out of Afghanistan.
President Biden launches a robust defence of the US withdrawal, describing the evacuation efforts as an extraordinary success.
We succeeded in what we set out to do in Afghanistan over a decade ago. Then we stayed for another decade. It was time to end this war.
Hundreds of thousands of people are to be offered a game-changing anti-cholesterol drug on the NHS in England and Wales.
Good morning. If you fill up with petrol, there are big changes at the pump from today as the standard fuel becomes more environmentally friendly, but it won't work for everyone. We've got all the advice you need.
Good morning. Emma Raducanu's dream year continues after her heroics at Wimbledon. The 18-year-old is now through to the second round of the US Open in New York.
Good morning. For the next few days, the weather is very similar to the last few days. We're looking at a lot of cloud, thick enough here and there for some patchy light rain or drizzle, breezy in the east, the best of the sunshine across parts of Scotland. I'll have all the details in about 25 minutes.
Good morning to you. It's Wednesday, it's the 1st of September, and the UK are in talks with the Taliban to secure a way out of Afghanistan for British nationals and Afghans who worked with Allied forces.
The talks are taking place in Doha and come after the militant group pledged to allow departures to continue after the evacuation effort ended. It's thought up to 250 people eligible for relocation, plus their families, remain in the country. Our political correspondent Jonathan Blake reports.
Now UK and US forces have left and the Taliban are clearly showing themselves to be in control, there's deep concern for British citizens and eligible Afghans left behind. Last night, Downing Street confirmed Sir Simon Gass, the Prime Minister's special representative for Afghan transition, had arrived in Doha to meet senior Taliban representatives. We're told he will underline the importance of safe passage out of Afghanistan for British nationals and Afghans who've worked with the UK.
The Taliban need things. They're running a sophisticated country. They know they can't run this country without help. If the Taliban are going to run a government and hold on to power as they want to do, they're going to have to engage as well. So we have some cards.
The UK has evacuated more than 15,000 people since mid-August, 8,000 of those under the Afghan Relocations and Assistance Policy, set up to allow interpreters and others who've worked with the UK to come here. Today, the government announced they'll be allowed to live in the UK permanently, instead of 5 years temporary residency offered before. So far, 2,000 people have been placed in homes, but many more are yet to get permanent accommodation.
There is a challenge because these are larger families and councils and housing associations will need to find family-sized homes. We're working very closely with them, ensuring that this is a fully funded package for them, and we've announced an additional £5 million scheme to help them to find those larger properties as quickly as possible.
The Foreign Office has sent crisis response staff to neighbouring countries to help Afghans trying to reach the UK. Talking to the Taliban may also be necessary, but the government will be keen to do it without lending Afghanistan's new rulers too much legitimacy. Jonathan Blake, BBC News.
Well, let's speak now to our chief political correspondent, Adam Fleming, who joins us live from Westminster. Adam, good morning to you. Give us an idea then, how important are these talks, or obviously crucial these talks are going to be?
Yeah, although it's not clear how detailed these discussions are with the Taliban, because that statement that we got from Downing Street last night revealing that the talks were happening at all said that the Prime Minister's special representative will be underlining the importance of the Taliban allowing so-called safe passage for people to leave the country. So that's underlining the importance of providing the safe passage, not necessarily going into the detailed logistics of how that safe passage will be provided. Although I think government ministers are still pinning their hopes that the airport in Kabul, which is now under Taliban control like the rest of Kabul, could be reopened in the coming days, which would make that journey much more easy. And in terms of what the UK is doing, the Foreign Office is sending some civil servants to neighbouring countries to Afghanistan to help process people who are travelling over land to Afghanistan's land borders.
Yesterday, we spoke to the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, on this programme, Adam, and talked to him about the UK government's record in Afghanistan with this evacuation process over the last few weeks. And he'll be facing even more questions today, won't he, in front of a committee?
Yeah, and I think some of the issues he raised in that interview with you will be probed by MPs today. For example, the Foreign Secretary was saying that the reason that the UK was maybe a little bit flat-footed in its response or caught by surprise by the fall of Kabul and the rapid advance of the Taliban is because the intelligence that ministers were given did not predict that, which some people have interpreted as him pointing the finger at maybe other government departments or the intelligence agencies rather than taking any responsibility himself. So I think that's a new area of questioning that MPs will follow up, thanks to your excellent line of questioning yesterday. And then there are all the issues that we've been discussing for the last couple of weeks. The big stuff about what was the point of the mission in Afghanistan in the first place, whether it was achievable, the means by which the UK and the US withdrew, and then just all the practical stuff that we've talked about in the last few days about getting people out, and even just the practical arrangements around the Foreign Secretary himself and why he stayed on holiday for a couple of days longer than some people might have liked as the crisis was unfolding. And also bearing in mind, this committee of MPs is chaired by Tom Tugendhat, a Conservative MP who is quite critical of the government at the best of times, but is a former serving military officer who was in Afghanistan and who made that very moving speech about all of this when Parliament was recalled the week before last. So it could be quite a kind of spicy encounter.
OK, all that to look forward to. We'll also be speaking to Victoria Atkins, who is the Minister responsible for Afghan resettlement, at 7:30 this morning.
President Biden has defended his decision to withdraw US troops from Afghanistan, calling the evacuation effort an extraordinary success.
In his first speech since the end of the 20-year war in the country, Mr Biden insisted the US had achieved everything it set out to do. But his approach has faced criticism, as our North America correspondent Peter Bowes can explain.
The spoils of war, American military hardware in the hands of the Taliban. Hangars full of US helicopters, decommissioned and dismantled so the enemy can't use them, but a potent symbol of America's defeat and the rise of the Taliban. But was it a defeat or a calculated withdrawal by a US president determined to draw a line under 2 decades of war? At the White House, Joe Biden praised the actions of US troops in helping to evacuate more than 120,000 people from Kabul in recent weeks.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals. For weeks, they risked their lives to get American citizens, Afghans who helped us, citizens of our allies and partners and others on board planes and out of the country.
But this was a president on the defensive, widely criticised for the way and apparent haste with which America withdrew from Afghanistan, leaving some US citizens behind. Mr Biden insisted he was right to end the forever war and not to extend what he called the forever exit. He laid the blame, in part, at Donald Trump for doing a deal with the Taliban, but also at Afghan government forces.
The assumption was that more than 300,000 Afghan national security forces that we had trained over the past 2 decades and equipped would be a strong adversary in their civil wars with the Taliban. That assumption that the Afghan government would be able to hold on for a period of time beyond military drawdown turned out not to be accurate.
Mr Biden insisted America's only interest was in making sure Afghanistan is never used again to launch an attack like 9/11 on the United States. But he said he refused to send another generation of America's sons and daughters to fight a war. It was, he said, time to look to the future after 20 years of pain and sacrifice. Peter Bowes, BBC News, Los Angeles.
An expensive but game-changing anti-cholesterol drug could soon be offered to hundreds of thousands of people in England and Wales on the NHS.
It normally costs nearly £2,000 per dose, but the manufacturer has agreed an undisclosed discount for the health service. NHS England says the treatment could save about 30,000 lives within a decade. Our health reporter, Michelle Roberts, has more.
Heart attacks and stroke are among the most common causes of death and ill health in the UK, and high cholesterol is one of the main risk factors. Too much bad fat in the blood can clog your arteries. While eating a healthy diet and getting enough exercise can help keep cholesterol down, some people need medication too. Cheap tablets called statins work for many, but not all. People in England and Wales could soon be offered a new type of treatment on the NHS. It's called inclisiran, and it's a cholesterol-busting injection given twice a year. It can lower bad fat in the blood when other drugs like statins have not done enough.
There's a huge unmet need, high cholesterol levels, and even in some cases, there are people who are just very vulnerable to even modest levels of cholesterol, and it's a silent killer. So being able to lower that and bring levels down close to the levels that we're actually born with, conveniently and safely, is a complete game changer.
NHS England says the treatment could save about 30,000 lives within a decade. The health watchdog NICE is recommending it as an option for people who've already had a stroke or heart attack and are not responding to other cholesterol-lowering treatments. NICE says a groundbreaking deal has been met with the manufacturer to make it affordable for the NHS. Its use is already approved in Scotland. Michelle Roberts, BBC News.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.